A distress signal in the night. David Chen never expected his late-night shift at the Mountain Research Station to change his life forever. As a telecommunications specialist monitoring deep space signals in Colorado's Rocky Mountains, his job usually involved hours of listening to static and documenting routine stellar phenomena. But on this particular autumn night, something different crackled through his headphones. The signal started as a faint pulse, barely distinguishable from the cosmic background noise. David almost dismissed it, but years of experience had taught him to trust his instincts. He adjusted the frequency, enhanced the signal, and suddenly found himself listening to what could only be described as a structured transmission. Base Station Echo 7, this is Chen. He spoke into his microphone, following standard protocol despite knowing the chances of a response were astronomical. Unknown signal source, please identify. To his shock, the signal changed. The pulses became more regular, forming patterns that his equipment began translating into recognizable data. As numbers and coordinates filled his screen, David's heart rate quickened. This wasn't random cosmic noise. This was a distress call. The coordinates pointed to a location just 3 miles from the research station, deep in the wilderness. David glanced at his watch. 2:37 a.m. Protocol dictated that he should report any unusual signals to his supervisors, but something about this transmission felt urgent. Personal experience as a former search and rescue volunteer told him that waiting for official channels could cost precious time. Grabbing his emergency kit, heavy jacket, and satellite phone, David left a brief note for the morning shift and headed out into the crisp mountain air. His truck's headlights cut through the darkness as he navigated the winding service road, following the coordinates on his GPS. The signal led him to a remote clearing, where his headlights illuminated something that made him question his sanity. A sleek, metallic object about the size of a small bus lay partially buried in the earth, its surface emanating a faint purple glow. It wasn't any aircraft he recognized, and its design defied conventional aerodynamics. "Hello," David called out, approaching cautiously with his flashlight. "Is anyone there? I received your distress signal." A soft humming filled the air, and a section of the craft's hull seemed to dissolve, revealing an entrance. David's training battled with his curiosity. Every science fiction movie he'd ever watched screamed at him to run, but his humanitarian instincts pushed him forward. Inside, he found her. A humanoid figure, clearly female, but with silvery skin that seemed to shimmer in the dim light. Her large, almond-shaped eyes opened as he approached, revealing irises that swirled with colors he couldn't name. But what caught his attention most was her clearly pregnant state. "Please," he spoke, her voice carrying an ethereal quality that seemed to bypass his ears and resonate directly in his mind. "My children, they come soon." The crash. Emergency landing. Pursuit. She winced, her hand moving to her swollen belly. David's medical training kicked in. "I'm here to help," he said firmly, pushing aside his amazement to focus on immediate needs. "Are you injured besides the pregnancy?" She shook her head weakly. "The landing pods protected me, but the birth, it approaches too quickly. My people, we cannot birth alone. The neural connection requires assistance." Her words became strained as another contraction hit. David noticed the ship's interior growing colder, systems clearly failing after what he now understood was a crash landing. He made a quick decision. "My cabin's nearby. It's warm, secure, and I have medical supplies. Will you let me help you?" The alien woman's eyes locked onto his, and David felt a gentle probe in his mind, not invasive, but questioning, evaluating. After a moment, she nodded. Your mind holds compassion." "Yes, please help." With careful movements, David helped her to his truck. As they drove through the darkness, she explained in broken sentences about her escape from an oppressive regime in her star system, about her pregnancy being considered dangerous by her people's rulers because of her children's unique genetic makeup. She was a scientist who had discovered something that made her babies special, something that made them targets. My name, she whispered as they reached his cabin, is Lyra. My children, they will need protection, guidance. Another contraction cut off her words. David helped her inside, transforming his living room into a makeshift medical area with surprising efficiency. As the first light of dawn began to paint the mountain peaks, he found himself acting as midwife to an alien birth that would change not only his life, but potentially the course of human-alien relations forever. What he didn't know then was that this night would mark him as far more than just a helpful human. In the eyes of the children he was about to help bring into the world, he would become something far more significant, their protector, their teacher, and ultimately, their master in ways he couldn't yet imagine. Stay with me, Lyra, David encouraged as the birth process began in earnest. Your children will be safe here, I promise. Her grateful smile illuminated the room with a literal glow, and David Chen, mountain station technician and accidental alien midwife, braced himself for what would surely be the most extraordinary night of his life, the dawn of two worlds. The birth was unlike anything David's medical training had prepared him for. As the morning sun crept through his cabin windows, Lyra's silvery skin began to pulse with waves of bioluminescence, casting ethereal patterns across the walls. Her breathing synchronized with the lights, creating a hypnotic rhythm that seemed to alter the very air in the room. The neural connection, Lyra gasped, reaching for David's hand. Without it, the children cannot safely emerge. You must allow me. Her fingers intertwined with his, and suddenly David's mind exploded with sensation. He found himself mentally linked with Lyra, experiencing a kaleidoscope of memories and emotions. He saw glimpses of her world, crystalline cities floating among purple clouds, vast libraries of living knowledge where information flowed like water, and the terrible darkness of persecution that had forced her to flee. But most importantly, he felt the babies, their consciousness already fully formed and aware. Extraordinary, David whispered, understanding dawning. They're telepathic even before birth. Lyra managed a weak smile. More than that, they are the first of their kind. A perfect merger of our most advanced genetic engineering and natural evolution. That is why they hunt us. The birth itself happened with surprising swiftness once the mental connection was established. Within hours, David found himself holding two identical baby girls, their skin a pale opalescent white that seemed to shift colors like soap bubbles in sunlight. Unlike human newborns, their eyes were wide open, revealing irises that swirled with galaxies of color. Aurora and Celeste, Lyra named them, her voice growing fainter. They will need you, David Chen. Their powers, their potential, must be protected, must be guided. David looked up sharply from the twins. What do you mean? You're their mother. You'll guide them. But Lyra's glow was dimming, her silvery skin taking on a translucent quality. The crash, the damage, was worse than I let you know. My life force, sustaining them through the escape, through the birth, it has taken too much. No, David protested, carefully laying the twins in a makeshift bassinet. There must be something we can do. Your ship, maybe there's medical equipment. The ship's core is critically damaged. Any attempt to power it would alert them to our location. Lyra's voice was barely a whisper now. But there is something, one last thing I must do. With trembling hands, she removed a crystal pendant from her neck. The gem seemed to contain a universe in miniature, swirling with cosmic energy. This contains everything, our history, our knowledge, the truth about why we fled. When they are ready, when you are ready, it will reveal all. She pressed the crystal into David's hand, and another wave of information flooded his mind. Snippets of her language, basic cultural knowledge, and most importantly, an understanding of the twins' unique needs and abilities. They will be different from both our kinds, Lyra explained urgently. Their powers will manifest gradually. They will need someone who understands both worlds. Someone with a heart strong enough to guide them, but gentle enough to understand them. Her eyes locked onto his. They have already chosen you. David felt it then, two tiny presences in his mind, the twins reaching out with complete trust and affection. Somehow, through the neural connection during birth, they had imprinted on him as surely as they would have their own father. "But I don't know anything about raising alien children," David protested weakly, even as he felt his heart expanding to embrace his impossible responsibility. Laura's laugh was like chimes in the wind. "You know love, you know compassion. You came to help a stranger in the night without question. The rest you will learn together." Her form began to shimmer, becoming increasingly transparent. Promise me you'll protect them. Train them, love them." "I promise," David said firmly, tears streaming down his face as he watched this remarkable being begin to fade from existence. "They'll be safe with me. They'll know about you, about their heritage. I swear it." With her last moment of corporeality, Laura touched each of her daughters once more, transferring a final blessing of knowledge and love. Then, in a shower of luminescent particles that drifted up like starlit snow, she was gone. David stood in silence, the weight of his new responsibility settling over him like a mantle. In his makeshift bassinet, Aurora and Celeste slept peacefully, occasionally reaching out with tiny tendrils of thought to ensure their new guardian was still near. Outside, the mountain sunrise painted the sky in brilliant colors, seemingly celebrating the arrival of these extraordinary beings to Earth. He knew his life would never be the same. Somewhere out there, forces were searching for these children. But here, in his remote mountain cabin, David Chen, former telecommunications specialist, now protector of possibly the most important alien children in the galaxy, began to plan for a future he could never have imagined. Looking down at the twins, he noticed they had already begun to change, their features subtly shifting to appear more human, their first unconscious act of self-preservation. "Well, little ones," he whispered, "we've got quite the adventure ahead of us." In response, both babies opened their eyes simultaneously, their swirling irises focusing on him with an intelligence that belied their age. And in that moment, David knew that while he might be their designated protector, he was also going to be their student in ways he couldn't yet imagine. First steps into two worlds. 5 years passed in the remote mountain cabin, each day bringing new wonders and challenges that David could never have anticipated. Aurora and Celeste grew at a rate that seemed slightly accelerated compared to human children, but it was their mental and physical abilities that truly set them apart. David sat at his kitchen table, watching the twins play in the living room. At first glance, they looked like ordinary kindergarten-age girls with pale blonde hair and striking blue eyes. Their natural camouflage ability had developed to help them blend in. But when they thought no one was watching, their true nature would shine through, quite literally. "Aurora, we agreed no levitating the furniture," David called out, trying to keep the amusement from his voice as he watched a sofa slowly rising off the floor. "And Celeste, please stop trying to telepathically convince your sister to put it down. You know that gives you both headaches." The sofa settled back with a gentle thump as both girls turned to him, their eyes momentarily shifting to their natural swirling galaxy state before returning to human blue. "But Dad," Aurora protested, using the title that had evolved naturally over the years, "how else will we learn to control it?" "Yeah," Celeste chimed in, her thoughts unconsciously broadcasting support to her sister. "Mother's crystal showed us we need to practice." The mention of the crystal made David pause. Over the years, he'd learned that Lyra's final gift was far more than a simple data storage device. It was a sophisticated teaching tool, revealing information as the twins became ready for it. Just last week, it had begun showing them images of their homeworld's training methods. "I understand you need to practice," David said carefully, "but we need to be smart about it. Remember our rules. Never use powers where others might see," the twins recited in unison, their voices carrying that slight musical quality that emerged when they spoke together. "And," David prompted, "never push too hard too fast," they continued. "Powers grow naturally like flowers, forcing them only causes damage." David nodded, pride warming his chest. For all their extraordinary abilities, the girls had developed a remarkable sense of responsibility. They understood, even at their young age, the importance of secrecy and control. Rising from his chair, David joined them in the living room. "How about we practice something more practical? The crystal showed me a new technique for energy manipulation that might help with your headaches." The twins' eyes lit up, literally small sparks of light dancing in their irises. David had learned that their enthusiasm often manifested physically, one of the many quirks of raising hybrid children. He sat cross-legged on the floor, and the girls immediately mirrored his position, forming a triangle. "Now, remember how we practiced sharing energy?" They nodded eagerly. "Today we're going to learn how to filter it." Over the next hour, David guided them through exercises that Lyra's crystal had revealed to him in his dreams the night before. The air around them began to shimmer as the twins learned to draw in ambient energy, filter it through their unique biological makeup, and release it in controlled bursts. "Dad," Celeste said suddenly, her voice taking on the distant tone that David had learned to pay careful attention to. "Something's coming." Aurora's head snapped up, her expression matching her sister's. "From the stars, looking for us." David felt his heart rate quicken, but kept his voice calm. They had prepared for this possibility. "What do you sense?" The twins closed their eyes, their hands clasped together as they extended their awareness upward. "A ship," Aurora reported. "Small, one person." "They're like Mother," Celeste added, "but different, darker." "A hunter," David concluded grimly. Lyra's crystal had warned them about these specialized trackers, sent to find and capture unique genetic variations. "Remember your training, girls. Time to go dark." With practiced efficiency, the family sprang into action. The twins immediately suppressed their energy signatures, their appearances becoming so convincingly human that even David had trouble seeing their true nature. He quickly gathered their emergency bags, always packed and ready, while the girls activated the crystal's defensive protocols. A subtle shimmer passed through the cabin as ancient alien technology, dormant for years, created a shield that would mask their presence from advanced detection methods. Another gift from Lyra, activated by her daughter's growing powers. "Down to the bunker," David instructed, opening the hidden trapdoor beneath the living room rug. Over the years, he'd converted the old root cellar into a secure shelter, combining human technology with the alien knowledge from the crystal. As they descended into their sanctuary, David caught the twins exchanging a significant look. "What is it?" he asked, recognizing their "we know something important" expression. "The crystal showed us more last night," Aurora began. "About why they're really hunting us," Celeste finished. David secured the bunker door, then turned to his adopted daughters. "Tell me everything." The twins glanced at each other again, then Aurora spoke. "We're not just hybrids, Dad. Mother did something when she made us." "Something that could change everything," Celeste continued, "for both our worlds." Above them, the first faint traces of an alien ship entering Earth's atmosphere burned across the night sky. In their secure bunker, David prepared to learn yet another extraordinary truth about the remarkable children who had become his whole world. Whatever was coming, they would face it together, one human and two hybrid children against the forces of an interstellar power they were only beginning to understand. Secrets of the stars. In the safety of their underground bunker, David listened intently as Aurora and Celeste revealed what the crystal had shown them. The air around them hummed with the gentle pulse of alien technology, keeping them hidden from the hunter above. Mother wasn't just a scientist, Aurora began, her form flickering slightly with excitement. She was part of something called the Stellar Concordat. A secret group, Celeste continued, working to heal the divide between worlds. David leaned forward, fascinated. Over the years, he'd learned to piece together information about the twins' heritage, but this was new. What divide? The girls sat closer together, their natural synchronization becoming more pronounced as they shared the burden of explanation. "Our people, the Luminari," Aurora explained, "they've grown too separate from the physical world. too focused on pure energy and thought. "They're dying," Celeste added solemnly. "Not their bodies, but their souls. They've forgotten how to feel, how to truly live." A soft glow emanated from the crystal hanging around David's neck, Lyra's final gift now shared between all three of them. Images began to form in their minds. A civilization of incredible technological advancement, but devoid of emotion. Beings of pure energy and intellect who had engineered away their capacity for deep feeling in pursuit of perfection. Mother found a way to reverse it, Aurora continued, her eyes swirling with inherited memories. She discovered that human DNA contains something unique, an ability to feel deeply while still maintaining higher consciousness. "We're not just hybrids," Celeste revealed, her voice trembling with the weight of the knowledge. "We're a prototype, a bridge between worlds." Suddenly, their bunker's sensors pinged. Something was moving in the forest above them. David quickly checked the monitors he'd installed, blending Earth technology with alien innovations. The hunter was close. "Stay quiet," he whispered, though he knew the bunker's shields would protect them. "Let's see what we're dealing with." Through their security feeds, they watched as a figure emerged from the shadows. The hunter moved with inhuman grace, its form shifting between solid and ethereal states. But what caught David's attention was its face, a mask of rigid perfection that somehow conveyed a deep emptiness. "It's happening to them too," Aurora whispered, pressing closer to David. "The hunters losing their connection to physical form." The twins gasped simultaneously as the hunter pulled out a device that pulsed with a familiar energy. "That's like Mother's crystal," Celeste observed, but wrong somehow. They watched as the hunter swept the device in wide arcs, obviously searching for their energy signatures. But Lyra's protective technology held firm, keeping them safely hidden. What happened next stunned them all. The hunter stopped directly above their bunker and did something unexpected. It removed its mask. The face beneath was hauntingly beautiful, but bore an expression of such profound loneliness that David felt his heart ache. "I know you can hear me," the hunter spoke, its voice carrying through their senses. "I am Vega, once sister to Lyra, now bound to hunt what she created." The hunter, Vega, looked directly at their hidden camera. "But I come not to capture, but to warn." David felt the twins stiffen beside him. "Aunt Vega," they whispered in unison, ancestral memories stirring. "The Luminary Council has discovered what my sister truly created," Vega continued. "They know now that these children are not merely hybrids, but the key to our species' salvation, and it terrifies them." David's protective instincts flared. "Why should we trust you?" To his surprise, Vega smiled, a genuine expression that seemed to cause her physical pain. "Because I can feel again, David Chen. Being this close to my nieces, that energy is already affecting me. Lyra was right all along." The twins exchanged a look that David had come to recognize. They were conferring telepathically. After a moment, Aurora spoke up. "Dad, she's telling the truth. We can sense it." "The council will send others," Vega warned. "Not to capture, but to eliminate what they see as a threat to their perfect order. A living reminder of what they sacrificed in pursuit of transcendence." Celeste tugged at David's sleeve. "Dad, we need to let her in. She needs our help as much as we need hers." David looked at his daughters, these extraordinary beings who had taught him as much about humanity as he had taught them. They'd shown him that true strength lay not in perfection, but in the beautiful mess of emotions and connections that made life worth living. "Okay," he decided, reaching for the bunker's controls. "But first, Vega needs to understand something." He activated the external speaker. "If you're really here to help, you need to know that these girls are not just your sister's experiment. They're my daughters, and I'll do whatever it takes to protect them." Through the monitor, they watched Vega's face transform with another genuine smile. "Good," she said. "They'll need both of us for what's coming." Because Lyra didn't just create a bridge between species, she found a way to save two civilizations, and the girls' powers are only beginning to awaken. As David initiated the security protocols to allow Vega into their sanctuary, he realized their small family was about to grow in ways he never expected. The real challenge and adventure was just beginning. The evolution begins. The next few weeks transformed their mountain hideaway into an unprecedented training ground. With Vega's guidance, combined with David's nurturing presence, Aurora and Celeste began to unlock abilities that even Lyra's crystal hadn't predicted. Focus, Vega instructed, her form shimmering in the morning sunlight as she stood in their reinforced training clearing. The power isn't just in your minds, it's in every cell, every atom of your being. The twins stood back to back, their natural camouflage dropped to reveal their true opalescent skin. David watched from the sidelines, ready to intervene if the training became too intense. He'd learned that while Vega meant well, she sometimes forgot the girls were still children. "Remember what Dad taught us," Aurora said to her sister through their bond. "Emotion gives us strength." Celeste nodded, reaching back to grasp her twin's hand. Together then, the air around them began to ripple as they channeled their growing powers. Unlike pure luminary abilities, which relied on cold logic and precise energy manipulation, the twins' powers were amplified by their emotions and connection to the physical world. Suddenly, the clearing erupted with light. Where two young girls had stood, a sphere of pure energy pulsed, containing their combined consciousness. Plants around them accelerated through their life cycles, blooming and withering in seconds as they absorbed and redirected the ambient energy of all living things. Extraordinary, Vega breathed, her rigid luminary training cracking further as she felt genuine awe. They're not just channeling energy, they're transforming it, creating something entirely new. David stepped forward, concerned by the intensity of the display. "Girls, are you okay in there?" The energy sphere rippled, and he heard their voices in his mind, speaking as one. "We can see everything, Dad. The connections between all things. It's beautiful." But their wonder quickly turned to alarm. The sphere collapsed, returning Aurora and Celeste to their physical forms, both looking pale and shaken. "They're coming," Aurora gasped. "A full council delegation," Celeste added. "They've tracked Aunt Vega's energy signature." Vega's expression hardened. "How long?" 3 days, the twins said in unison. "They're bringing the null ships." David saw fear flash across Vega's face, the first true emotion he'd seen break through her luminary conditioning. "What are null ships?" "Vessels designed to neutralize all energy manipulation within their range," Vega explained grimly. "They'll try to suppress the girls' powers, return them to a purely physical state. The shock could kill them." Like cutting off oxygen, David realized, his protective instincts flaring. "We need to evacuate." But Aurora and Celeste shared another of their significant looks. "No," Aurora said firmly. "We're tired of running. Mother gave us these gifts for a reason," Celeste continued. "It's time we use them." Vega shook her head. "You don't understand. The council will bring their full might. They'd rather destroy you than risk the change you represent." The twins stepped forward, and David was struck by how much they'd grown. Though they appeared as young girls, their eyes held ancient wisdom. "Show him," they said to Vega. "Show Dad what Mother's research really discovered." Vega hesitated, then pulled out her own crystal, darker than Lyra's but still pulsing with power. Lyra didn't just study human DNA. She found something deeper. A resonance in human consciousness that allows for something we luminary lost eons ago. Images filled their minds. The ancient luminary, beings of both matter and energy, capable of experiencing the full spectrum of existence. "We thought transcending our physical forms would make us greater," Vega continued. "Instead, we became less. But humans. Humans never let go of their connection to the physical world," Aurora interrupted excitedly. "They feel everything, embrace every part of existence," Celeste added, "and that's what makes them strong." David watched in amazement as his daughters began to glow, not with the cold light of luminary energy, but with something warmer, more vital. The plants around them responded, reaching toward them as if drawn to the sun. "We're not just a bridge between species," Aurora explained, her voice carrying new confidence. "We're the key to remembering what was lost," Celeste finished. "The power isn't in transcending the physical. It's in embracing all aspects of existence," they said together, their combined energy creating patterns of light that seemed to dance with joy. Vega's eyes widened as the twins' energy reached her, and David saw something remarkable: tears, actual physical tears, rolling down her ethereal face. "I can feel," she whispered, "everything, like before the ascension." David stepped between his daughters, placing a hand on each of their shoulders. He felt that energy flow through him, not overwhelming but empowering. "So we don't run," he said firmly. "We show them what they've forgotten." "A revolution of consciousness," Vega mused, wiping her eyes with wonder at this simple physical action, led by two hybrid children and a human father. 3 days, Aurora said determinedly. 3 days to prepare, Celeste nodded. As they began planning their defense, David realized that everything, his rescue of Lyra, raising the twins, even Vega's arrival, had been leading to this moment. They weren't just protecting two extraordinary children anymore. They were fighting to remind an ancient civilization of what it meant to be truly alive. The mountain air crackled with possibility as two young girls, a human father, and a recovering luminary began preparations for a confrontation that would determine the fate of two species. The true test of their unique family was about to begin. When two worlds collide, the morning of the Luminary Council's arrival dawned with an eerie stillness. David, Vega, and the twins stood in their mountain clearing, watching the sky slowly fill with shifting patterns of light as the null ships breached Earth's atmosphere. "Remember," David told his daughters, kneeling between them, "no matter what happens, you've already proven that being human isn't a weakness, it's our greatest strength." Aurora and Celeste, dressed in simple earth clothes rather than the traditional luminary energy-weave garments Vega had offered, squeezed their father's hands. Their touch carried both love and determination, emotions that would have been alien to pure luminary children. "The council approaches," Vega announced, her form flickering between physical and energy states as her own transformation continued. 7 elders, 3 null ships, and, she hesitated, the Void Guards. David saw fear flash across the twins' faces. Through their mental link, he caught glimpses of what the Void Guards were: luminary warriors who had sacrificed the last of their emotional capacity for pure destructive power. "Stay strong," he whispered. "Together." The air crackled with energy as the luminary delegation descended. Unlike Vega's subtle arrival weeks ago, they made no attempt to hide their presence. The null ships hung in the air like inverted pyramids of darkness, already attempting to suppress the ambient energy around them. The council elders materialized in a semicircle before them, their forms so pure and perfect they hardly seemed real. Behind them, the Void Guards took position, their armor seeming to absorb light rather than reflect it. Vega, the central elder, spoke, its voice carrying no inflection. "You have failed in your duty as hunter. Step aside." Vega stood her ground. "No, eldest. I have succeeded in my true duty, to my sister's vision, and to our people's future." The elder's perfect face showed no reaction, but the air grew heavier. "These aberrations represent a devolution of our species. They cling to primitive physical forms and emotions. They must be cleansed." "We're not aberrations," Aurora's voice rang out clear and strong. "We're what you used to be." "What you could be again," Celeste added, both girls stepping forward. David moved with them, one hand on each daughter's shoulder. The elders regarded him with something approaching curiosity. "The human protector," another elder noted. "Your attachment to these beings is irrational. Step aside, and you will be spared." "My attachment to my daughters," David corrected firmly, "is what makes me strong enough to stand here facing you." The twins shared a quick glance, then began to glow, not with the cold light of luminary power, but with something warmer, more vital. The plants around them responded, reaching upward as if awakening from a long sleep. Enough, the first elder commanded. Activate the null field. The null ships pulsed, releasing waves of anti-energy designed to suppress all power manifestations. But something unexpected happened. As the field reached the twins, their glow didn't diminish. It transformed. "You can't suppress what we are," Aurora declared. "Because our power doesn't come from transcending the physical," Celeste continued. "It comes from embracing it all," they said together, their combined energy creating patterns that seemed to dance with joy. The Void Guards stepped forward, raising their weapons, but froze as the twins' energy reached them. David watched in amazement as cracks appeared in their perfect armor, light seeping through. What is this?" One of the guards spoke, the first time in centuries any of them had voiced individual thought. "Memory," Vega answered, her own form now solidifying as she embraced the change. "Of what it feels like to be whole." The twins raised their hands, and the energy flowing from them intensified. But instead of attacking, it began to resonate with something deep within the luminary themselves. Ancient memories stirred, of feeling rain on skin, of laughing with pure joy, of loving so deeply it hurt. "Stop this," the first elder commanded, but their perfect voice wavered. "We chose to evolve beyond these limitations." "No," David stepped forward. "You chose to run from them. To hide in perfection because feeling deeply means risking pain. But that's what makes life worth living." The twins' power reached its peak, and suddenly everyone in the clearing was connected, human, hybrid, and luminary alike. Through their joined consciousness, the elders experienced everything they had forgotten: the warmth of sunlight, the ache of loss, the thrill of discovery, the power of love. The null ship's fields flickered and died as their operators, overwhelmed by recovered emotions, lost control. The Void Guard's armor crumbled, revealing beings who were beginning to remember what it meant to feel. "This is what Mother discovered," Aurora explained to the stunned council. "Not just human DNA, but the human capacity to embrace all aspects of existence," Celeste added. "The power isn't in transcending emotion," they said together. "It's in learning to feel everything and still stand strong." The first elder stepped forward, and for the first time in millennia, their perfect face showed something real: wonder. "We were wrong," they admitted, the words carrying the weight of ages. "In pursuing perfection, we nearly destroyed ourselves." David held his daughters close as the transformation spread through the luminary delegation. Some fought it, clinging to their cold perfection, but most surrendered to the awakening. The air filled with sounds that hadn't been heard in the luminary collective for eons: laughter, crying, exclamations of joy and fear, and everything in between. "What happens now?" David asked, watching as the former Void Guards helped their shaking brethren adjust to the flood of recovered emotions. Vega, now fully physical, smiled through her tears. "Now we begin again. Not as separate species, but as teachers and students of what it truly means to be alive." The twins beamed up at their father, their eyes swirling with both human joy and luminary wisdom. They had done what their mother dreamed of, not just surviving as hybrids, but showing both their parent species a better way forward. As the sun set on their mountain sanctuary, two civilizations began the delicate process of learning from each other. And at the center of it all, a human father held his hybrid daughters close, knowing that their greatest adventure was just beginning. Legacy of Two Worlds. 10 years after the confrontation on the mountain, David Chen stood on the balcony of the newly established Earth Luminary Cultural Exchange Center, watching his now teenage daughters teach a class of mixed human and luminary students. The center, built near their original mountain cabin, had become the heart of a remarkable transformation in human-alien relations. Aurora and Celeste, now graceful teenagers who could seamlessly shift between their human and luminary forms, moved among their students with practiced ease. They were teaching what they called unified consciousness, a blend of luminary energy manipulation and human emotional awareness. Remember, Aurora's voice carried across the training ground. Power isn't about control, it's about connection. Feel everything, Celeste added, demonstrating as she created a sphere of energy that pulsed with warm colors. Your strength comes from embracing both joy and pain, success and failure. David smiled as he watched a young luminary student tentatively create their own energy sphere, this one flickering with genuine emotion rather than the cold perfection their species once prized. Beside them, a human student learned to extend their consciousness beyond physical limitations, guided by their own feelings rather than rigid discipline. They surpassed all our expectations, Vega said, joining David at the balcony. The former hunter had become the twins' most devoted aunt, helping bridge the gap between the old luminary ways and the new path they were forging. They surpassed everything we imagined possible, David agreed, watching as his daughters skillfully guided their students through the delicate process of emotional and energetic awakening. The past decade had brought changes no one could have predicted. After the Council's awakening, the Luminary had begun a careful process of reconnecting with their long-suppressed physical and emotional natures. The twins, with their unique blend of human feeling and luminary power, became living examples of what was possible when both aspects of existence were embraced. "Dad, Aunt Vega," Aurora called up. "Come help us demonstrate the advanced bonding techniques." As they descended to the training ground, David caught sight of the memorial garden where the holographic statue of Lyra stood among blooming earth flowers and crystalline luminary plants. Her sacrifice had laid the foundation for everything they'd achieved. The lesson that day was particularly significant. They were teaching the next generation of human luminary hybrid children. After the success of Aurora and Celeste, other luminary had chosen to have hybrid children, leading to a new generation that naturally bridged both worlds. "Watch closely," Celeste instructed the class as David and Vega joined them. "The bond between species isn't just biological, it's a choice we make every day to understand each other." The twins demonstrated, creating a complex energy pattern that showed the interconnected nature of all living things. David, now well-versed in participating in such demonstrations, added his human perspective to the matrix, while Vega contributed the experience of a luminary who had chosen to reconnect with their physical nature. "Every consciousness is unique," Aurora explained, "but we're all part of the same cosmic dance." A small commotion at the back of the class drew their attention. A young hybrid student was struggling, tears of frustration streaming down their face as they tried to maintain both their physical form and energy manipulation. David watched proudly as his daughters smoothly handled the situation. Aurora knelt beside the student, taking their hands, while Celeste created a supportive energy field around them. "It's okay to struggle," Aurora soothed. "That's part of being human." "And it's okay to feel overwhelmed," Celeste added. "That's part of having luminary power." "The trick," they said together, "is accepting both." The students' powers stabilized as they absorbed this lesson, their tears turning to laughter as they successfully maintained both aspects of their nature. Later that evening, as the family sat in their original cabin, preserved as a reminder of where their journey began, David reflected on how far they'd come. The twins were no longer hiding their nature, but celebrating it, helping others find their own balance between physical and energy states, emotion and intellect. "You know," Aurora said, curled up in her favorite chair, "I found some of Mother's old research notes in the Crystal Archive." She predicted this, Celeste continued, her form shimmering slightly with excitement. Not just the hybridization, but the cultural transformation. Vega, who had become a permanent part of their family, nodded. Lyra always saw further than the rest of us. She knew that evolution wasn't about transcending our nature, but about embracing all aspects of it. David looked at his extraordinary daughters, leaders, teachers, and bridges between worlds. "Your mother would be proud," he said softly, "not just of what you are, but of who you've become." The twins shared one of their special looks, then turned to their father with matching smiles. She'd be proud of you too, Dad, Aurora said. After all, Celeste added, it was your humanity that showed everyone the way. Outside their window, Earth's moon rose alongside a luminary light ship, the combined illumination symbolizing the harmony that had been achieved. In the valley below, the lights of the Cultural Exchange Center twinkled, a beacon of hope for both civilizations. David Chen, once a simple telecommunications specialist who helped an alien give birth one extraordinary night, now stood at the center of a peaceful revolution in human-alien relations. His daughters, once hidden in fear, had become teachers of a new way of being that honored both their human and luminary heritage. As the family settled in for their evening routine, a blend of Earth traditions and luminary energy practices, David knew that this was just the beginning. Each new hybrid child, each luminary who chose to feel again, each human who learned to expand their consciousness, was part of an ongoing evolution that would ripple across the galaxy. The story that began with a distress signal on a quiet mountain night had become a symphony of transformation, proving that the greatest power in the universe wasn't in transcending our nature, but in embracing all that we are.